Hey guys, welcome back to Annie Narrates. Here, we like to review stories that beautiful people like yourselves post on the internet. Today's story's title goes like this. Disloyal ex-wife smirks when family court ordered me to pay child support to her affair baby. She almost got away with it. But then... Hey, so I, 28 male, recently got a divorce from my ex-wife Jessica, 27 female. I was the one to initiate the divorce after I found out that she had been cheating on me with her boss. I found out about 7 months ago, after accidentally reading a couple of texts on her phone. I filed for divorce the very next day, and recently it was finalized. Unfortunately, we're still struggling with the custody arrangement and child support because Jessica had a baby boy a couple of months back. She was just a few weeks pregnant and wasn't showing when I filed for divorce, but soon enough, we realized that she was expecting, and I almost had second thoughts about the divorce. But then I realized that there was a very strong chance that the baby wasn't even mine, so I didn't do anything. She gave birth about 3 months back, and the first thing that we arranged for, along with my lawyer, was a paternity test. Of course, I was not the father, but Jessica insisted that I pay child support and share custody with her. Apparently, I made a lot of promises to her before, and that's why she had caught her biological father off. She claimed that I had known about the affair, but I had still wanted to take care and raise the baby with her. She said that even in the middle of divorce proceedings, I had visited her a couple of times and said that I wanted to raise the child with her. This is why she was not in contact with the biological father anymore, all based on my promises. So now I absolutely had to cough up the money for the child support. These were all lies, but unfortunately, there was just no way for me to prove it, and it was her word against mine. The lawyer and I had been trying for months, ever since we learned about the pregnancy, to prove that this was not true, so I could get out of paying child support for a baby that wasn't even mine. But unfortunately, it didn't work out for me, and last week, the family court ruled in her favor and decided that I would have to pay child support because I couldn't prove that Jessica was lying. And they believed her word over mine. Her parents were already speaking against me and backing up her claims, and had even influenced our common friends to speak up against me. I just never stood a chance. I remember her even smirking at me when it was declared that I would have to take up responsibility and pay child support at least. I was disappointed, because I had honestly hoped that this would somehow work out well for me, since I was already losing my wife of 2 years. I didn't want to lose my hard-earned money as well. Jessica had played her cards just right and weaseled her way into an easy life, where she walked away with a huge settlement sum in the divorce, as well as child support for a baby that wasn't even mine. I was pretty depressed that day, so I decided that I wasn't going to do anything apart from drink and sleep. I'd already lost 2 important cases, and there was nothing that could bring me joy that day. So I ended up drinking a lot, and then, while drunk, I decided that I was going to log into Jessica's Instagram account and post a picture and rant about everything that she'd done to ruin my life. I knew her password because I had seen it once ages ago when she was typing it in. I never thought that I would need it, but now that we were here, I figured that I might as well do something to screw her over, which is exactly what she'd done to me. So, I logged into her account, searched for a picture of the two of us, and then posted it with a long and elaborate rant about everything that she had done. I was drunk and depressed, so I'll admit it wasn't my best moment. As soon as I posted it, I felt like I'd already won and probably fell asleep on the couch, feeling thankful that at least I had gotten to keep the house in the divorce. I didn't wake up until hours later, and only because my phone was buzzing on my face. It was Jessica calling me, and as soon as I answered the call, she started yelling at me and told me that I was a crazy psycho jealous man and she was forever going to hate me for what I'd done. I was so confused and lost because I'd just woken from a nap that I had no idea what she was talking about. So I told her to leave me alone because, if anything, she was a crazy psychotic weirdo who ruined my life, and it didn't matter to me if she hated me, because she had already done enough to prove that she hated me. I disconnected the call and tried to remember what I'd done. But in the meantime, she called me yet again, and this time, she was crying. Apparently, I'd really messed up by posting the picture and then telling the world what she had done in the caption. Technically, not the world, but all of her followers. I didn't have the slightest clue of what was going on because, yes, what I'd done was bad, but it didn't warrant the kind of reaction that I received. I had expected her to be mad at me, but I didn't understand why she was sobbing so hysterically and acting as if the world had come to an end. By the time that I checked the app, the post had already been taken down, so I didn't understand what all the fuss was about. I asked her to slow down and explain what had gone wrong. Not out of concern, but more out of curiosity. Through sobs, she told me the whole story, and by the end, I was actually feeling pretty good about my decision to drink and get back at her through social media. So, apparently, the baby was not mine, but it wasn't her boss's baby either. It was actually a third guy's child altogether. A couple of months before the divorce, she had attended a wedding on her own. It was her coworker's wedding, and there she'd met a friend of her coworker's who was really attracted to her. We'll refer to him as Adam. And they ended up hooking several times throughout the week that she was there. By the end of the week, Jessica had made up her mind that she was going to break up with me and her boss so she could be with Adam instead. She didn't know how, but she had already fallen in love with the guy and knew that's who she wanted to be with. On the day that she was about to leave, she was going to confess, but just like in the movies, that day was the day that Adam chose to introduce Jessica to his wife. The poor guy had assumed that since Jessica was married, she wouldn't mind hooking up with a married guy like him. And apparently, he had believed that even if they couldn't be together forever, they could still at least be friends. Which is why the idiot had decided to introduce his wife to the woman who he had been cheating on her for almost a week. Jessica told me that she had completely freaked out when she met Adam's wife, and that's where things went really wrong for her. She unfortunately ended up attacking Adam's wife out of anger, and they got into a physical altercation where she scratched his wife up pretty badly. She was let off with just a slap on the wrist and a fine, but Adam was convinced now that she was absolutely deranged and didn't want to see her again. The coworker whose wedding she had been attending knew everything and advised her to forget about Adam. Because, even though he cheated on her, it was pretty obvious that he would still much rather stay with his wife than with Jessica. Jessica had been really upset about it for weeks, which finally explained why she'd been so sad when she finally returned from the wedding. Now, after I had posted the picture in my rant, her coworker had seen that post and had put two and two together. Jessica had made the mistake of telling her coworker that she hadn't been with her boss for almost a month since he'd been out of the country for work before she got together with Adam. So, her coworker had figured out that there was just no way that that baby was her boss's. It had to be Adam's, and so she contacted Adam to tell him all about the baby that was his. After that, Jessica received a phone call from Adam. She answered the call, expecting it to be a confession of his love for her or something. But instead, he'd call her to warn her that he was now going to fight her for custody of his baby, and that she had no right to separate the two of them like this, especially given the circumstances of her mental health, referring to the fact that she was just totally cuckoo. And now, Jessica was blaming me because she might be losing custody of her son. She was sure that Adam would use that one incident where she had attacked his wife against her, and that would give him a lot of leverage over her. She told me that I had ruined her life, and I was the reason that now her son might be taken away from her. I told her that I was sorry about the post, but that was the most that I could do for her. She told me that apologizing wasn't enough, and that I had to step up and take responsibility. I didn't understand what she meant until she told me that if we got back together for good, then Adam would probably stand less of a chance to get full custody. So, basically, what she was suggesting was that I enter a false relationship with her, just so she can prove that she's stable enough to raise a child and doesn't end up losing custody of her son to Adam. I told her that she was being crazy again and disconnected the call because that's how ridiculous her suggestion sounded to me. It's been a week since that phone call, but Jessica hasn't stopped hounding me about her suggestion. She's texting me, calling me, and doing every single thing in her power to change my mind about it. She truly believes that it's now my responsibility to make sure that she doesn't end up losing custody because, after all, it's my fault that Adam found out about any of this. I'll concede that it was my fault and probably wasn't a good idea to post that, regardless of the consequences. But I'm not going to be the father to a child that isn't even mine. And honestly, if Adam gets full custody or even partial, then I'll count it as a win. Because then, I wouldn't have to pay child support anymore. Yesterday, when she called me again to ask if I had reconsidered, I told her that I hadn't. And I probably wasn't going to because frankly, she had lied her way into this custody arrangement. And if Adam ended up getting custody of their son, then it would probably be for the best. So she should just accept it instead of trying to fight it. She spazzed out at me again and told me that I was a horrible human being and that what I was doing to her was even worse than what she'd done to me. So, am I the a-hole for exposing my ex-wife's lies on social media because I wanted revenge? Hi guys, thank you for all the comments. I really do understand that what I did was messed up and I did apologize for it. I also understand that she could sue me for that if she wanted to, but I know that she isn't. She isn't avoiding a lawsuit out of the goodness of her heart, but because she doesn't want to get caught up in another legal battle, which she already has so much on her plate to deal with. A couple of days ago, Jessica had told me that I was a worse person than her because of what I'd done. That was the last conversation that we had for a while, and she went completely MIA after that. I almost feared that she would try to make a run for it or something, because with Jessica, there was just no telling what she would do next. She was kind of unpredictable and crazy, which is what had initially attracted me to her, but now, it just made me feel afraid of her, and I honestly think that she is psychotic. Thankfully, I found out yesterday from her mother that she just deactivated all her social media accounts. Thanks to what I'd done, she just didn't want a repeat of that anymore. Her mother had called me last evening to tell me that she'd already been served and that she and Adam would have to meet with a court-appointed mediator in a couple of days. I had also filed to modify the child custody arrangement now that I know who the real father was. So, that was another mediation process that she would have to go through. Her mother had clearly called just to guilt-trip me and talk me out of canceling the child support. She reminded me of how lovely my relationship with Jessica was when we had just started out dating and told me that she's always felt in her heart that I was the man that she was supposed to be with. After everything that she and her family had put me through, it almost seemed laughable that they were trying so hard to fix a relationship that they had broken themselves. I told her that I appreciated her stepping in and trying to make things better for her daughter in spite of how disgustingly unethical all this was. I said that it was nice to see that at least somebody in the family cared about their kids and not just for themselves. Her mother seemed surprised when I said that and asked me what that was supposed to mean. So I told her that if Jessica wanted what was best for her child, then she would have been honest and transparent right from the beginning. Instead, she chose to lie and forced an innocent man to cough up an insane amount of money to fund her lifestyle. I knew that the child support she was demanding was insane because she was a working woman as well and could totally afford to be a single mother. But it was a conscious choice that she was making, so she wouldn't have to take accountability for her own terrible decisions and could rely on a man forever to make sure everything was paid for. I had no sympathy for people like her. Hey everybody, so today I met Jessica for the first mediation meeting. She didn't look like she was doing too well, and throughout the meeting, she just had a horrible look on her face, like she was smelling something bad underneath her nose. I was just glad that things were going my way, so I didn't pay much attention to how she was glaring at me and trying to intimidate me. This time, the tables had turned, and I was in a better position legally. The meeting was in my favor for the most part, but we are still meeting for a couple of more sessions so we can completely terminate everything that had been agreed upon earlier. It's going to take a while because my in-laws hired the best attorney for her daughter, but I have the truth on my side. So I'm not very worried about what's going to happen. After we left, Jessica made me in my car, which was weird because we hadn't spoken since the last time she called me to tell me that I was a bad person. I tried to ignore her presence so I could get into my car without a conversation, but as soon as I was about to shut the door, she asked me if I didn't even have a conscience. I looked up at her and told her that she didn't seem to have a conscience either when she was fooling the court into ordering me to pay child support for her affair baby, and neither did she have a conscience when she was cheating on me with her boss and also Adam. So I didn't see any reason for me to go easy on her now when she had never extended the same to me. She told me, with tears in her eyes, that the meetings with Adam regarding her son's custody weren't going too well, and it was likely that the matter would go to court if they were unable to reach an agreement soon. She said that the company that she used to work for had already fired her and her boss after the post, which wasn't really surprising, and she really should have thought of it before she had an affair with her boss. She told me that her boss wasn't speaking to her and had cut her off entirely, and things with Adam weren't going too well either. So she was at her lowest right now. She added that he had already talked his way into visiting rights, and if it went on like this, she would soon enough have to agree to full custody. I thought that it was a bit of a stretch because courts always want families to stick together as much as they can, so it was unlikely that she would end up losing custody so soon. Nevertheless, I told her that I was sorry for her, but that I couldn't do anything here. Then I finally shut my door, but before I could leave, she landed a swift kick at my door before I started driving away. It was pretty immature and juvenile, but it wasn't worth a reaction. Once I was done, I decided to go back home and have a celebratory drink because after so long, things were finally going my way. Then I received another message from Jessica, saying that I would have to pay for all that I had done to her some way or the other. I was honestly so done with her, so I blocked her and got on with my evening. There are still a couple of days to go before Jessica and I meet with the mediator next, but today, it was actually Adam who contacted me, and it really took me by surprise because I hadn't ever expected him, or anyone for that matter, to contact the husband of the woman he had an affair with. He called me up in the morning and asked me if I would be willing to meet for lunch. I was a little put off by his confidence at first, but then I figured that since Jessica and I are already over, I might as well meet the guy and get some answers. So, after some hesitation, I agreed to meet with him for lunch, and he seemed thrilled. He thanked me over the phone and even said that he couldn't wait to meet me. He sounded like a weird guy, but as long as he was going up against Jessica, I didn't care what kind of guy he was. I just wanted him to take her down. So, I headed out to work after the phone call, and at lunchtime, I went to the restaurant that Adam and I had agreed to meet at. There, I was quite surprised to see that he had brought his wife along as well, and both of them greeted me quite warmly. Honestly, I was confused because of how okay his wife seemed to be with this whole situation. I couldn't help myself and asked Adam as soon as I had taken my seat about how he had convinced his wife. The two of them burst into laughter and told me that they were actually in an open marriage, so they had no problem with Adam getting together with Jessica. And he told me that when he met Jessica, she told him that she was in an open marriage too, but unlike Adam, she had no interest in staying with her husband. Adam had told her that he was very committed to his wife and did not plan only to leave her. He had told her about this, but for some reason, she believed that she would be able to convince him to leave his wife and get with her instead. When Adam told her that he had no intention of leaving his wife, that's when Jessica lost her mind and attacked the woman, because she had been so sure of herself that she'd be able to make him leave his wife for her. She went crazy when Adam didn't instantly fall for her. Honestly, I could see Jessica acting that way. She'd always been incessantly vain, and it didn't help that she was very conventionally attractive, so it was pretty easy for her to get men to do what she wanted them to do. Obviously, Adam not being instantly obsessed with her and not being wrapped around her little finger made her snap. She was already pretty unstable, and I'm guessing that she was struggling already with the affair with her boss and stuff, which didn't help. He told me that after Jessica's coworker texted him and told him about the post, he called Jessica the very same day, which I already knew about. Now he wanted me to help them out and testify against her because he thought the case was going to court. Jessica was in no way, shape, or form willing to give up even partial custody of their son. But Adam and his wife were not going to give up so easily. They knew that Jessica was obviously not completely right in the head and didn't trust her to raise their son all by herself. So they were asking me to help him out here. Adam even apologized to me for getting together with Jessica and promised me that he truly had no intention of breaking up our marriage. I told him that he was not the one at fault because he'd been clear about everything, and it was Jessica who had lied to him and also to me. I agreed to help them out and testify against Jessica in court if it came down to it. It felt like the universe was finally giving me a chance to make everything alright again by getting back at that woman for trying to ruin my life. So Adam and I shook on it, and that was that. There's still a while to go before I actually have to do anything, but I'm just glad to know that I'll have the opportunity to mess with her now, just the way that she messed with me soon enough. I am already pretty sure that I'll be able to get out of paying child support and ensure that I get to keep all my money to myself. She's lucky that I just want her out of my life, or else she has a lawsuit to deal with soon enough. But I don't want that. I just want this to be over with. Hi everyone! So it's been 4 months since the last update, and I didn't really come online on Reddit because I didn't have anything to share as such. I also was pretty busy with a new project that I had taken up, so I lost track of time. But anyway, I have good news for you guys who were following my story. So after a long legal battle, Adam and his wife were able to get full custody of their son because they proved that Jessica was not capable enough to raise him on her own. Her multiple affairs and the fact that she had attacked Adam's wife didn't help her case for sure. There was also the thing about her getting fired and being unemployed for quite some time. I also testified against her and told the court how she had manipulated everyone to take her side and falsely involved me in a custody case so I would have to pay child support. All these factors combined and her generally crazy behavior ended up with Adam getting full custody, and I couldn't be happier. Because I'm sure that they will be better parents than Jessica. I don't have to pay child support either, so that's a huge win for me too, and I'm finally done with the woman. Okay guys, that was a wrap up for today's story. Thank you very much for listening. Go ahead and smash that like button for me, and subscribe for more stories. Thanks again, and we'll be seeing you in the next one.